Hi everybody, it's Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. I've got with me today Steve Rafferty from RingCentral. While I could introduce you, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Steve Rafferty from RingCentral. Great to be with you, Tim. So
And
I run the upmarket.
Your role is?
So I run the upmarket business across Europe for RingCentral. So that's selling to customers with over 100 seats.
Okay, so upmarket being
Europe and EMEA.
Big companies.
Yes, big organisations.
Okay. And where are you on social? Where can people find you?
So I am Steve Rafferty on LinkedIn, very easy to find me, and on Twitter I'm Steve Raff.
And on LinkedIn, there's a picture of you standing in front of 10 Downing Street, which, if you're outside of the UK, it's where the Prime Minister of the UK lives.
Yeah, we was going in there to sign a deal many years ago. It was the highlight of my career.
Yeah. So let's talk about your social journey before we get into any of the details of RingCentral. So how did you get onto social, and why did you get onto social?
Okay, so I've moved over the years from a direct seller to a manager to a director, and I've always been keen to generate leads. I don't, you meet sales guys who say, my job is to be an account manager. I really struggle with that. Everybody should be responsible for generating leads, whether it's within an existing customer or a new customer. So I'm always looking for ways to get to the customer base that I'm looking to sell to and add some value. And LinkedIn was the first place that I really found. It must have been 10, 12 years ago. I can't remember, where there were a couple of really bright guys and girls in the office where I worked that got their LinkedIn profiles up to date, that were linking in with people, having conversations, and I got on the train really from that point in time.
Ever since I've known you, Steve, you're a great believer in prospecting, whether you're as a salesperson or prospecting as a leader, and you've always led from the front from that. And I know that you. There's an example that we may get to later on where you're sitting at the weekend watching your son play football and you're prospecting.
100%. Yeah.
You never get away from that. So what sort of things did you realize that you needed to get onto social, and what did you first do?
So I think it's fair to say that I became an enthusiastic amateur. So I tried to get my profile up to date. After I met you and you actually showed me how to do it, I realized I was off the mark, but I was better than 90% of everybody else in the market. And also commenting on business that was happening and sharing things that added value to my audience, whether that's customers, prospects, partners, and just really building a network of people. And I've found that that's really helped over the years, and over the last couple of years has really started to take off for me.
And your network, I think last time I looked, you probably got 10,000 connections, but these are not connections. These are real people. They are ex-colleagues and they are recruiters, but you've got a great network across your prospects, your customers, because you're big users of partners, et cetera. Am I right?
Yeah, I always believe that if somebody needs you, you try and help them, regardless of who they are. So yeah, from recruiters to partners to customers, I've got lots of customers that I've connected with, that I've stayed friends with over the years, that once or twice a year I might speak to, 6 or 7 times a month I might speak to. So I tend to keep in contact with as many people as I can.
So even though even before you started working with us, you must have gone through a process where you thought that social was the right thing to do. And what was that? Was there something that convinced you to do that?
Yes, I used to do it to investigate prospects, rather than selling to them or trying to connect to them. I used to try and look at what people were doing. So I would read the news and read an article about a customer in distress or a customer growing, thinking my technology could help them, fix their issues or grow even faster. And then I would use something like LinkedIn or Twitter or any means I possibly could to research that customer. So when I reached out to them, I actually made sense what I was saying, rather than, there's nothing worse on LinkedIn, and I probably get about 20 a day where somebody asks you to connect, and then you get an email selling a service you'd never have any interest in, and it just switches me off. It might be a great product, but so I like to try and add value in everything that I do, and that's really where I started using LinkedIn.
And I think one of the things that I like about social is that the fact that when you're cold calling somebody, and we've all had to do that, you're in a situation where you have very little time to actually put forward your position. And what social does is it actually slows that down, so you have longer to actually. I know it kind of sounds. Some people think that when you say you need to build a relationship, the fact that it's like you've got to be at the person's barbecue before you can actually pitch something.
Would be nice.
But I think that with the cold call, it is very much pitch. Where with social, you've got the ability to slow it down. You've got the ability to find out about the person and actually go to them, which is, I remember when I was first in sales and I was playing cassette tapes in my car, trying to learn what on earth this sales thing was about. And there was this view that you had, you took what the clients and you matched to that. And really what you're able to do with social is finding that match. So you understand the people more. So when you go to them, your pitch is far more honed to and more focused in terms of are more likely to get a positive response. Would you agree?
100%. And we've moved on a bit now. We call it modern selling.
Yeah.
So we actually use social selling to generate leads and opportunities for us.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine, to go to an event or to pay for an organization to generate leads costs an absolute fortune. And also as well, sometimes they're very sterile. You get a passing glance to talk to somebody, but through the modern selling approach that we've taken, working with you guys and some other stuff we've done in the US, we're able to coach and coax customers in at the right time. So the bit where it works really well for us is you and I are sales guys.
Yeah.
We're in sales mode all the time.
Yeah.
But customers aren't always in buying mode all the time. So what we are able to do is to build a body of work out on the internet through social.
So a body of work being content that's
content. You got it. Yeah. So lots of content, lots of comments, lots of references. So when an organization starts looking for technology or looking for a solution, the chances are they're going to come across yours and they're going to read through the detail and they're going to reach out to you. Now, I was sat in a team meeting on Friday in San Francisco, and it was about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock UK time, and a note popped in from a guy I'd never met before. It was a second connection from a retailer saying, I've just had a drink with a friend of mine. He was
so
asking
second
me,
connection, meaning they're not even connected to
not
you.
even connected to me. Just had a drink with a friend of mine who's got a business issue that it looks like you can fix, which I've seen from LinkedIn. Here's his details. Could you reach out to him next week? And we were talking about modern selling at the time. This is how we're trying to work.
And one of the things that I'm always, since the beginning when I started selling, it was always about how can you be different. And there seems to be this process at the moment where everybody wants to be the same. And so I remember when we contacted, or I made contact with you. Well, you can tell the story, but I wanted to be different from everybody else, because otherwise you're just another salesperson selling just another product. And I know that you're really passionate about it, and I know it pays your mortgage, but there are millions of other salespeople out there, that are passionate, all with a mortgage to pay.
Yeah, and the bit I loved about the way you reached out to me is that my father always told me you've got two of these and one of those, and you should use them in equal measure. And say I was getting 15 in-mails a day and lots of other notes. I was sat on the train and I happened to read your note and I replied to it without thinking why I had to reply to it. But you'd researched me, you'd understood what I was trying to do just from what I'd posted on certain locations. You referenced it, He said, I'd love to have a chat to get to know you better. You didn't say, is there any chance I can meet you so I can sell you something?
Yeah.
I mean, I bought off you twice, but but you know, you didn't say, hi Steve, can I sell you something? You know,
Yeah.
when we met, we had a conversation. That
Yeah.
conversation turned into a relationship that turned into you adding value to us, which
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's always been your mantra in terms of. I think sometimes we get lost with this term about adding value or helping people, but I know that you and I am passionate about helping customers. You know, we refer people to you when we come across people going, "Hey, we could do with something for conference calling." We always refer people to you, and your success is my success, so it's intertwined. So you were in a situation where you are and you were a senior person within an organization. You were being bombarded with stuff. And what was it that you thought that actually stood out?
Well, you never met me, but you seem to know me.
Right.
You were able to articulate the issues I was facing. You'd obviously researched the business I was at the time, which wasn't in the best of shape. And you referenced a point around how organizations like mine needed support around social. And you basically knew what I was looking for, which was a very clever way of doing it. And that's how we got together and started talking.
And I mean, I always tell people that I contacted you on Thursday. We were having a meeting on the next Tuesday.
We were.
And when people say to me, social selling takes a long time, I always say, no. And here is a great case of, I didn't have to get through your PA. I didn't have to ring your PA up and try and convince them to get through. I just got through to you direct.
I booked the meeting room myself. Booked it all. and that's the value, really. You had some value to offer straight, and I didn't have time to wait. And we've closed some pretty big deals with customers on the back of social,
right,
in short time.
Yeah,
because sometimes you get a customer who's in distress, and they go and do their research, and you sort of cut through all of that. I think one of the things that's missing in buying at the moment is modern buying. There's lots of modern selling and social selling going on, but there isn't necessarily, the modern buying piece going on as well, where people actually invest time and share the things that really matter to them. That only tends to happen when they're in distress. And using social and modern selling is a great way to find those people that need your solution quickly.
And what have you done? What have you unlocked to actually get people to buy through social? Because we have a lot of people that seem to think that it doesn't exist.
There's 2 or 3 ways. I mean, we've written some really nice content.
Right. That's you and the salespeople that have written that.
Yeah, that's us. So we're authentic. Is a great way to put it. So we recently won a really large deal that wasn't found on social, but social played a key part, because as the organization started to look at us and look at RingCentral, you look at RingCentral compared to the organization we're up against over here, and we were small fry in comparison, and this was a very large deal. But then when you looked at the people in the organization we're competing against, the person hadn't updated their profile. They got that horrible thing at the back, the blue thing.
Yes.
Their job title was account director for one of the competition for this organization, so they hadn't even bothered to update their title. And then you looked at our SE, you looked at our sales guy, you looked at me, you looked at everybody else in the organization they touched, and we all had a voice. We all had things to say. We all had great recommendations. We just looked like a professional outfit compared to the competition, who looked like a bunch of amateurs.
And I think that you actually, when you presented to the client, you actually presented this, didn't you?
So no, the client asked us that obviously. They asked why there was a picture of me outside number 10.
Okay.
And they asked if we'd ever signed a deal of the size. And we're like, yeah, we've signed lots of deals this size. We might have not done them at this at this business, but they were asking us to reference where we'd done things before, and it was really easy at that point. It'd be much more difficult.
They'd actually checked you out online, and they checked the competition out online. So if you think about the usual sales processes, we walk into a room at the client's office and we pitch, and then and then we walk out and we meet the competition who are down in reception, and then they walk in and pitch, and then a decision is made. But what you're saying is the decision is actually also made on social.
It's there's 6 or 7 touches before somebody normally reaches out to you, and then there's another 4 or 5 before they decide to buy. And the social bit is such a key part in a modern selling approach. So we won a customer last year that is a large newspaper group. We made sure we were connected to everybody on social. We made sure we built relationships with everyone. But as part of our modern selling approach as well, we turned up, we were 1 of 9 people. We're the first of 9. Right. And when we presented to the customer, we actually presented our solution as a newspaper. Yeah. And it was very factually correct, but it also had some fun in it. So they got to know us as people. And, with the first out of 9, we walked out the room, and the feedback we had from the customer was the decision was made. Yeah. They'd researched us, they'd seen we'd researched them. And I think professional salespeople today do half a job. It's like I can tell everybody all the secrets about how social and modern selling works for me, but I know only 3 or 4% of the people are going to get off their asses and do anything about it. Yeah. So it's a real shame, because I absolutely love the.
So you're using social during prospecting. You're using social also during the sales process. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing by doing that also the sales process is shortening.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're actively, we there are other clients where we work with them after we've helped them with social selling, and what we do is we provide a mentoring service where we actually go through their pipeline, and you'll have a situation where I'll pick Pepsi because I'm drinking a can of it. At Pepsi, and the salesperson isn't connected to anybody on social at Pepsi, and therefore, but they're actually saying that that's going to close this quarter. We would see that deal at where you're laughing. We would see that deal at risk and raise that with the sales leader because there isn't a connection. Is that what you're saying?
That's what we do, yes. So we do KDRs, which are key deal reviews for all of our key deals every quarter. And we use TeamLink on Salesforce. The sales guys know this is globally for our organization. If you're going to walk in a room and pitch that a deal's going to close, one, you've got to have a mutual plan for that customer that shows how you're going to close that deal. But 2, you've got to be connected. And it's really good now because, I get guys from the States at RingCentral say, do you know this lady in this organization? I can see you connected. Look through the profile. Yeah. Would you like an introduction? Introduction goes off you go, off and running. So we share our links around. With TeamLink as well, we're also now opening that up to partners. Yeah. So, as you get really tight with partners, you get to the point where 1 + 1 = 4 when you're working together and you use each other's relationships, and it really works.
So what would you say, what have been the challenges? You've taken your team through a process of learning to social sell. What's been the challenges about
that? Just getting the team. It's a bit like going to the gym. You and I know that you can join a gym and you're not going to lose a stone. What you got to do is you've got to get up every day. You've got to go and you've got to put the effort in. Yeah. And when it's raining and you look out the window and you think, I'll tell you what, I'll just go and have some toast for breakfast rather than it's got to become a habit. If it doesn't become a habit, then it's not going to work for you, and you've got to be committed to it. And you can't be scared to prospect. And
that, I guess, is something where people have to start the process, you know, you go to the gym once, and then, you know, you may go to the gym 3 times a week, and then the next week, as you say, it rains and you go twice, and then you go once, and then you stop. Whereas you've got to keep going all the time, haven't you?
You have, and that doesn't mean that you have to write your own content every week. Some people are embarrassed about sharing stuff. You know, I don't mind making an idiot out of myself. I'm quite good at it. But a lot of people are scared of sharing their own thoughts. So what we try and coach people to do, and there's a couple of people in our business in the US are brilliant at this. So we do lots of curated content. And if you just bash it out there, you know, it sort of passes by. But if you start off by just, you know, adding some content to the top that's relevant to your customer base. So we had some content that was around how we were transforming restaurants chains in the US, and I posted it with some relevance for the UK and got 3 leads out the back of it.
Right.
Now that took me 30 seconds.
Yeah, to get 3 leads.
To get 3 leads, yeah.
And you've had, let's pick up on this thing about content, because I hear a lot of people saying that salespeople can't write content. So you famously have written one blog which you've used to recruit people, haven't you?
Yeah. So
which is still on your LinkedIn profile if people want.
Yeah, it's still on. It's about Fernando Alonso, who's probably the greatest motor racing driver of this generation, who for 3 seasons spent his time in the middle and the back of the grid. And I know quite a lot of salespeople like him who are too scared to leave. Well, the reason he's earning so much money. But there's lots of people in average organizations not earning the money they can. So I wrote an article about him and just basically said, don't be a Fernando Alonso. And it was actually aimed at 2 people. Neither of them responded to it, but about 7 or 8 did. And I think we recruited 6 of them.
Right. Okay.
Imagine how much that would have cost to
well, the recruitment fee, people can work that out. Yeah. Yeah. And you've had quite a lot of across the team. I know that you guys are now very active on social. I mean, are there any other experiences or things that you could share?
Yeah, so there's a couple of guys in the team at the moment that are writing some real clever content around how to get the best out of Microsoft Teams, for instance. You know, fantastic product. You know, there's lots of people in this industry think that your competition are your enemy.
Yeah.
And I always scratch my head. I mean, you know, we're not on a battlefield in 1942. We're trying to transform businesses with technology. So why everybody has to think we're fighting against each other is just totally beyond me. But, you know, if you look at what Microsoft have done over the last couple of years, you know, they're really starting to do well with Teams. So we complement what they do, and then we share it, and we go, you bought Microsoft Teams, congratulations. 1 + 1 = 4. Let's show you how we can really drive that forward. And there's a guy called James Turner in our team who's done a couple of amazing articles on it.
He's good.
He focuses on the legal sector as well. And he's putting awesome content out there at the moment that is not getting the recognition it deserves. But if you fast forward probably 12 months, there'll be 15, 20 leads that come up what he's writing today.
Yeah. So we at the beginning we talked also about an organization that you decided to prospect. You went, right, I'm going to go for this organization. We're not going to name them. And you were sitting, I can't remember, your son was playing football or something. And you decided to say, so talk me through what you did, because I think a lot of people think on social is you go to somebody, you try and make a connection, nothing happens, and you give up.
You have to keep going. So the way we are growing as a business at an amazing rate. You know, if you look at our stats for last quarter, we grew up 34% again. I think as an organization, we did $31 million deals. When you're growing at that rate, and we've got so much inbound because our technology is just right on the mark. When you're growing at that rate, if you're not constantly generating your own pipeline and keeping it going, then it just gets harder to grow. So we have a process whereby people like me and people like the sales managers and my boss, we also try and try and prospect into the organization. So our sales guys pick, say, 20 customers they're going to go after. We then look across those sales guys and go, right, we're going to go after 10 with you. And then, we do a number of things like, do we know anybody? Is there anything we can, is there any partner relationships? We go through a whole process. And this one particular organization, we had no relationships with, but by using Navigator, and, I watch all of Alex Lowe's videos.
Yeah. And
learn so much from him, and I recommend everybody gets a Navigator.
Yeah, I do.
Everybody subscribes to what Alex does, because he So I was actually sat in the kitchen one day, going through these accounts, reached out, and I started liking some comments from people. The one thing with LinkedIn is it's no good going after somebody who's never on.
Yeah.
You've got to go after the active people. So I narrowed it down to about 6 people in this organization, started liking their posts. And then there was a post about contact center, which I commented on. He commented back. He sent me a LinkedIn invite, and then he asked me if I could go in and have a conversation about the contact center. We're now the preferred bidder on an opportunity which could be 2 or 3 million.
Right. Yeah.
Which is big for us.
For zero cost.
Well, it's a bit of effort on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah. So that's been really good. I mean, one of the things that you talked about before you came on air, which was one about selling cycle versus buying cycle, and I think that people often forget that LinkedIn is full of people trying to sell stuff. And you talked also about how I think there's a stat that 97% of the people that right now are not in a position to buy your product. So you're looking and talking to and finding that 3%, but also this 97% are going to come along at some stage and will be in a position to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're doing is that you're building this library of content that when these people come along and they start buying, they will find this content, and then you will become the natural choice.
That's correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So it's like a body of work of interest to the organizations that we want to sell to, where we can add value, and you just keep building it and building it and building it. It's never going to go away. And you look at all the Gartner research. People go out shopping now before they contact you. They're probably 60% down the qualification process. Well, if you look at our team, specifically at RingCentral, compared to some of the competition, they're going to look at us, and they're going to see that they're going to find a whole load of useful information that's more than likely going to make them reach out to us.
There's a story that one of your sales guys told me, which I don't know if you remember. He was replying to a bid, and the usual sort of thing. Here's a spreadsheet. Does it do this? Yes or no? And then the response was, you could write 2 things on a sheet of A4 about yes or no about your company. And he actually responded and said, look, I'm not going to write about my company, because you can actually go on the internet and research on them. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to send you to 3 blogs that I've written. And the blogs were about the business issues, the industry issues. And he said within 10 minutes of him pressing the button of sending that email saying, go and look at these blogs, the customer actually rang him up and said, you're on the shortlist. He said, I've never seen someone do this before. You understand my business issues. You understand the industry. You're completely relevant. You're on the shortlist.
The guys have got into Point Drive now as well. I don't know if many people have seen that, but it's a fantastic way to.
It is.
Fantastic way to communicate with people, really is, and you can make it personal as well. Yeah, really clever.
But Point Drive is part of the Enterprise Edition of Sales Navigator, and you and your team are well know that Sales Navigator pays for itself.
It does.
And as you know, Alex Lowe or Alexander Lowe on LinkedIn, if you don't follow him, you should do, because all of his videos are just 1-minute videos on how to use Sales Nav, and it pays back in dividends. I mean, you go, I never thought about that. Wow, that's amazing.
It's brilliant.
Steve, it's been fantastic. Thank you very much for.
No, thank you.
I know that it goes really, really quickly. A good 29 minutes of talk. It's been fantastic.
Thank you very much.
It's been great talking to you. Remind everybody where they can get hold of you.
Yeah, so Stephen Rafferty on LinkedIn, picture of me outside number 10, and Steve Raff on Twitter.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, and have a good day.
See you later. Cheers.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.